Do you remember the video that I did about the Unfair Advantage book? And I explained a little bit to you, like what does that means. And so somehow the author of the video saw it. And actually, this video would be about the interview with Hassan Kuba, the writer and the author of the Unfair Advantage book. Before starting, if you are new here in this channel, I want to say welcome back, and don't forget to subscribe into the channel so that you receive all the new videos. And actually what I do in this channel is, first of all, to learn English, and secondly, to motivate you to have a better and healthy life. So I let you watch the interview with Hassan Kuba.
On Baghdad, maybe you've read the book, by the way?
I didn't read it. I saw a lot of videos about it, and a lot of famous YouTubers talking about it, and I was, wow, that's just so logical. I was like, why I didn't know these ideas before? And so because it was so great, I wanted to share the ideas with my community on YouTube. And so you have seen the video, and here we are.
And Ali Abdal is the one that you
Yeah,
saw?
exactly. I've seen, first of all, like I entered your YouTube channel, and then I've seen Ali Abdal, and I was like, wow, like I know him, he's so famous. And so I've watched the interview with Ali Abdal and so many other interviews. So yeah.
Nice. Well, lovely to meet you. I'm happy to get started, and I'm happy to answer any kind of question that you'd like.
So I'm curious about a lot of things, so I have many questions. So you are an executive coach, an entrepreneur, and also the author of the Unfair Advantage book with Ash Ali. And so how do you manage doing all of that at once? It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think you get used to having a bigger workload over time. But at the same time, I like to create time in my calendar for creative work. So I don't really fill it up too much anyway. I actually like to have periods of some unstructured time. So yeah, I am doing a lot, but at the same time, it's not so crazy because I only work with like a handful of clients at a time on purpose, because I like to just sort of stay focused and not to have too many in terms of volume. So that's kind of how I like to do it.
Okay, that's interesting. So you manage, to program your days maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So before diving into the book, I have a question in my mind. Like I saw in a lot of your interviews, you were talking about creativity. And so did this creativity came when you were a child, like in your childhood, or it's more when you've grown up that you become, more creative and having goals and all of this stuff?
Good question. I think I would say I never considered myself a creative person. I thought I'm much more of a scientific thinker. In fact, like my best subjects at school was like science and math, a little bit maths, and English was my weakest. So especially writing. So it's funny now because the book has done so well, but writing wasn't my strength. I used to read. I always liked to read books, but I didn't think of myself as a creative person. But I've started to understand creativity a lot more now. Creativity is not just being an artist, like a painter, for example. It's also being able to come up with new ideas or remix old ideas into new ones. So I started to think of creativity much more broadly. And yeah, I'm much more of a creative personality type than I thought I was. And it took me a long time. That comes back to self-awareness and self-knowledge. And it took me a lot of time to realize that. Yeah, I think it's one of the main themes of the book is self-awareness. And that's one of the things that I figured out as I got older. Like, oh, this is creativity. I am actually a bit of a creative personality type.
Okay. So you've discovered that you are a, like, let's say, creative person more when you've grown up.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good. So to talk about the book, I've seen that it was featured on the Forbes magazine's cover and also on the BBC. That's just amazing, and the book is just amazing, and it really deserved it. So to start, my first question is, like, why do you decided to write the book, and what inspired you to write it?
Yeah, so we wrote the book because it was mostly from the startup background. So the book was written mostly for technology startups initially, and then it started to become more and more broad as a concept and more generalized because it applies to success in general. And I think the inspiration to write it started when we were investing in some tech startups, and there was a lot of them pitching us, trying to raise funding for their companies. And we realized that some of them have something missing. They don't have an unfair advantage. That's what we called it, Ash and myself. And we thought, let's write a book about this. But if we go further back into the origin story, it's probably because I read a lot of self-development books and listened to motivational speakers. And I agreed fully with what they were saying. And nowadays, I think it's very useful what they say, and I think it's very valuable. But I don't agree fully. I think there are limits. Exactly. I feel like they assume that everybody is coming from the same starting point, when in reality, everybody has different circumstances and different unfair advantages. And I think that's absolutely key to bear in mind, which they don't acknowledge.
Exactly, yes. I didn't realize because for so many years, I think for 5 years from now, I was really watching, motivational videos, and I really like the fact that they motivate you and the speech and work hard and all of these stuffs. But by reading a lot of, these self-esteem books and self-development books, I said, like, it's not just the hard work. It's also, let's say, luck. Sometimes it's luck. Yeah. And we are going to talk about luck. But before that, so you developed a framework called the Miles framework with Ashali. And so can you explain a little bit about this 4 miles? Yeah.
Yeah, so exactly. You were talking about how, and we were just touching on how it's not just hard work, it's also some luck. But how do we define what the luck is? And it's not purely luck, and it's not purely hard work, it's somewhere in the middle. But the key idea is that we all have unfair advantages. Success is based on unfair advantages, but we all have them. Now, we don't have equal unfair advantages, but we all have some. So how do you find your unfair advantages? And we developed this framework, which you've just referred to, called the Miles framework. So it's an acronym. So M is for money, I is for intelligence and insight, L is for location and luck, which is right place and right time, and E is education and expertise, and S is for status. Status is how you come across, who do you know, your network, these kinds of things. Your inner status is your self-confidence, your self-esteem. So those are the 5 kind of broad categories of unfair advantages which we figured out, which we identified, and we put it into this framework we call the Miles framework. And they're also all on a foundation of mindset. So you have to have the right mindset. If you don't, then it's no good having all these unfair advantages.
That's actually to help people to find their unfair advantage. Because by the way, for people who are watching this video, like everyone have an unfair advantage, which a lot of people think like, I don't have any luck, I don't have any unfair advantage. So this is what I precised also on my previous video, like every and each one of us have an unfair advantage. Okay, that's interesting. Also a question, like Ashali is was a friend that you known before, or when you decided to write the book?
Uh, yeah, yeah, we were already friends, and we decided to write the book together. Yeah, we met like at a business dinner. People often ask us, where did you meet? We met at a business dinner, and yeah, it was just, location and luck. We were in the right place at the right time to meet each other, and yeah, first we became friends. I was traveling in Southeast Asia. He had a startup in Dubai. And I said to him, why don't you come to Malaysia? And he hadn't been to that side of the world. So he's like, okay, cool. Dubai is like halfway there, kind of, compared to London. So he came and we spent some time in Kuala Lumpur, in Jakarta, Indonesia. And then we spent time in London as well before that and after that. And yeah, so we were good friends and we still are.
Interesting, because he said also in an interview some really inspiring and brilliant ideas, and it was wow. Okay.
She's great.
Yeah, he's really great. So I saw in one of the interviews that you said status for you is the most powerful one. So why is the most powerful one?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think status is the most powerful because the other things can lead to having more status. So having more money can give you more status. Being in the right location, maybe a very expensive part of a big city, can give you status. Having good education, if I went to Oxford University, for example, if I had gone there, that would have given me status. So these are all just being British. I guess that's part of location, right? I'm so lucky, and that's part of my status. Being a native English speaker. If I came to London when I was 20 years old rather than when I was 3 years old, then I wouldn't be so fluent. I would have an accent. Again, status. It all plays a big role. And status opens doors. Status helps you raise funding. Status helps you to meet people. Status helps in so many ways. It's the biggest unfair advantage. Status is also who you know. So status is huge. I think it's the most powerful unfair advantage.
Okay, so can we say it is like a little bit of luck? Like
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the unfair advantages are all based on at least a proportion of luck, or a foundation of luck. So for example, being born into a rich family, that's luck. Like you can call that the genetic lottery. Being or even into like a prestigious family, well-known name, or being born in a developed country, that's also luck. That's status. How you look, a lot of that isn't based on your control. Some of it is based on your control. Where you studied university, some of that is based on what you controlled, how hard you worked, but also based on what kind of school your parents took you to, what kind of upbringing you had, what kind of natural inclination towards academia or exams that you have. So everything's mixed up.
Yeah, and you said also it's about self-esteem, about like...
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's outer status and inner status. Yeah.
Inner status. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting because I think if we have if I can't trust myself, I can't do all of that. I can't advance in my life. I can't do anything. So absolutely. Yeah.
Outer status is how you are perceived by others, and inner status is how do you perceive yourself.
Yeah. So I see inner status. It's very much more important than out status. You said. Yeah. Okay.
Because one influences the other. How people react to you will influence how you see yourself, and how you see yourself will also influence in how you behave, and then how people react to you. So it's circular. One is affecting the other.
Yes, exactly. And I also heard Ashali saying that he was a people pleaser, and also I was like him, a people pleaser. So I didn't have this inner status. It was more out status, and I wanted, people are looking at me, how they are thinking about me, but it's a lot of work to work on yourself and in your inner status. So I think it's really, really important.
Absolutely.
So the next question is like, so sometimes it's all about luck. Not every one of us, have money or education. So yeah, I think you've answered the question, because I wanted to say, like, for you, what is the relationship between luck and unfair advantage?
What's the relationship? Yeah, it's huge. It's where we start from. You can't take responsibility for what you did as a child very much. You can't really say that was my fault. When you're a child, you have diminished responsibility, so you can't take it to. And a lot of what happens before you're born, where you were born as a child, affects what happens later on in life. It doesn't dictate it. It's not the only thing. But I think statistics say that one of the biggest indicators for how wealthy you're going to be when you're older, how rich, what your income is, etc., is your postcode. Exactly where you grew up. where were you born? Where were you grew up? What passport you have. These are the things that have the biggest impact, and these are luck. And so, but that does not mean that you have no control of your success. Absolutely not. It's very important to realize that you do have control of your success, but you don't have full control. So you can develop unfair advantages. Some unfair advantages you can develop. It's not just existing already or not. The Miles framework is like a snapshot in time. Like it's like a photo of your life at that point. It changes over time. And the other thing to bear in mind is also that you can turn your disadvantage into an advantage. This is a very important concept, because people might be thinking, oh, well, I'm not rich, I'm not in a good location, I'm not super intelligent, nor do I have like amazing education or anything of status or looks or height or nationality, everything. But you can turn a disadvantage into an advantage. For example, if you grew up not wealthy, I didn't grow up wealthy, you can turn that into an advantage by having better resourcefulness and creativity for how do you solve problems. You don't just throw money at the problem because you don't have money. So this kind of thing, or for example, being some kind of let's say a female entrepreneur, maybe that's going to be a bit more of a disadvantage, because maybe you're not taking us seriously or something, but you have insight into what do women want. You have insight into looking at things in a different way. These are all things that you can think of, and there's lots of case studies in the book for that, and that's the key.
Yeah, okay, that's so interesting. Yes, how you can shift your mind, how you can say, okay, maybe I have one, so I have to search about it and to think more positively than negatively.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really great. And you also mentioned in your book about being grateful. And that's really actually resonates with me, because I feel like no matter how, I put hard work and also efforts, but it's always going to be into the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, and also luck again. But yeah, like, what's your opinion about that, about being grateful?
Yeah, it's huge. It's very, very, very important. You mentioned Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything is based on an Islamic principles in the book, because everything is based on an idea of looking at life and understanding that we are not in control, we are not the masters of our own destiny, as they might teach us if you listen to motivational speakers or read these self-development books. You know that the rizq is in God's hands, it's in Allah's hands. You know that your destiny is all in His hands, but you know that you also have control over it, and that's the concept of the book. And I think gratitude is the biggest cheat code. It's the biggest shortcut, the fastest way to be happy. It's the fastest way to change your mindset. It's the fastest way to unlock good feelings and to understand and be grateful for the blessings that you have in your life. The unfair advantages that you have, they're blessings. And even the negative things, they are blessings. That's when you become really advanced in your mindset. You think of even the negative things as blessings, and you look at the positive side of them, and I think that's the absolute key.